So hello, my name is Jadal Holder. For those of you who do not know me, because I'm seeing quite a few people who I know, I have been in the education sector for about 11 years, a little over 11 years, and most of that time was spent teaching Spanish and sometimes teaching French. And over that time, especially in the early, there would have been some challenges that I would have faced as a teacher. And I would have done research and come up with some solutions to the problems that I have faced and that I found that most of us are facing. And we're here today to share those solutions with you. I'm seeing someone else has entered the room. Welcome. I'm not sure who you are, but you can say hi. We're testing the chat. And the question I was asking the other participants who are here is which language or languages you teach. So just to give an idea of how this session is going to go, it's not a session where I'm going to be talking at you for the next 45 minutes, an hour. So feel free to chime in and say what you have to say and ask your question. Leanne, you can't see her or hear her, but she's there as the moderator. So what she will be doing is she will be taking the questions that I need to answer immediately, and she will let me know if I need to answer stuff immediately. And if not, at the end of the session, the questions or the comments that I would have missed, we will have a conversation about it then. So you can feel free to type in your comments now, or you can write them down and type them in later, but we will address everything that needs to be addressed. So don't be shy. Feel free to have a chat with me. Okay, so let's get right into it. Oh, also, before we get into it, there will be resources I share throughout the session, and there will be things that I talk about, different websites and whatnot. I have prepared a file to share with you at the end of the session, so you don't need to worry about writing it down because it will be all there in the file for you to use whenever you would like to reference it. Okay, let's get going. We're going to start off with why we're here. What are the objectives? Well, at the end of this session, I'm hoping that you will be able to use the characteristics of the 21st century modern language learner to motivate them in your classrooms. I hope to teach you exciting strategies to motivate the modern language learner in the classroom. And let's have some fun. I would have spent some time preparing this webinar, this hour-long webinar for you, and I would have hoped that I tailored it to your needs. But I would really like to know why you are here so that when we're talking, I can actually talk about the things that you are concerned about. So if you can take some time, maybe a minute or so, and just type in for me why you felt the need to attend this webinar. Are you a new teacher and you are looking for new strategies? Are you an experienced teacher and you're just looking to reinvigorate your classroom? Reason? What was the reason for you attending this webinar? Do you just like attending webinars? So feel free to let me know. Are you having a particular challenge in your classroom that you felt you needed to attend this webinar? Why are you here? I see I have to give you some time to type, and that's fine. For me, when I was attending webinars and when I started doing research in the modern language teacher, in the modern language learner, sorry, it was because I was having issues in my classroom in terms of my students being engaged. Like they seemed very uninterested. And also, when they got to that point where they had to choose whether or not they wanted to continue languages, very few of them decided to continue doing languages. So I decided that I would do things like this, attend webinars, do my research, and find ways to motivate them within my classroom. Was that, did you have a similar experience? Right. So I'm seeing Giselle saying she's trying to find more fun and innovative ways to teach Spanish in the classroom, right? As some students don't see the importance of learning it. Yes, and that's exactly the issue that I would have been facing also. They just think it's not important to them, and they're not motivated to do so. Anybody else care to share why they're here with us today? Sandra wants to find different strategies to appeal to her students, and some don't see the relevance. Yes, that's very true. Okay, and Dave is refining his skills, looking for new things and ways to help teachers. Okay, yes. So what I'm seeing from the comments is that we're looking for new things. So we're trying to keep ourselves current, and also we are having some issues in terms of our students not necessarily being motivated to learn the language in the classroom. Elen wants to hear about other strategies to motivate students. Elen likes learning, and if it benefits her students, even better. I love learning too. Yes. And yeah, so I'm hoping that that's what we will do today. We will share some strategies. We will share fun, innovative ways to motivate our students, and we will learn some things, and we will have some fun also. So let's go ahead and get right into it. If you would have read the bio, my bio, when you were looking into doing this webinar, you would have seen that my favorite educational quote is, "We teach students and not subjects." Hi, Mirella. Right, so Mirella is looking at finding ways to equip students with skills to motivate. Right, and that's exactly why we're here. Right, so, and I'm seeing most people are saying the same thing. Strategies, how we engage our learners, how we motivate them. I have to give you a 2 to 3 minutes check. That's fine. Okay. So as I was saying, my bio would have indicated that my favorite quote is, "We teach students, not subjects." So when I was encountering the same problems that some of you are encountering, or when I felt the same way that I wanted to engage my students more, rather than starting from the subject point of view, I started looking at who are the students that we are teaching. And the students that we are teaching are these 21st century learners that we all, excuse me, that we all know about. And when we hear 21st century learners, it's a term that we hear so often, is bandied about so often in the educational context. And it generally refers to the competencies such as collaboration and creativity and digital literacy. And everybody has heard it, everybody knows about it, everybody knows about these skills. And we know that we need them to have future ready schools. But something is still missing because, as you all said, the students still aren't motivated. So some people think all we have to do is use more technology and the students will do better. Like if that's a band-aid for the problem that we are facing. But if we increase technology aimlessly, that's not going to solve our problem. What we need to do is evolve our teaching so that we need to evolve by learning who our students are. And once we're able to do that, we would be able to suit the needs of our learners. So that's what I did. I looked at who my learners are, who the 21st century learners are, and started from there when I tried to motivate them. Sorry, so Dr. Yaman Ali is looking at encouraging foreign language teachers to think outside the box. Well, I hope I'll give you some outside the box strategies today. Good. So what I did was I looked at who the learners are. I looked at their characteristics and I tried to figure out which characteristics I can use to motivate them. So I focused on two. There are many characteristics, and if you Google 21st century learner, you will find a whole long list. But the reason I chose these two is because after lots of trial and error, I found that focusing on these two proved to be successful in my classroom. So I adapted my approach. I changed my suiting style to my teaching style to suit their needs, and it motivated them, and that's what I'm going to share with you. So the two things that I would have focused on are the fact that these learners are visual learners and that they love instant gratification. And knowing that they're visual learners, so I use visuals, and because they like instant gratification, I looked at where they got the instant gratification to see if I can find a way to put that into my classroom also, so that they will feel like they are still getting this instant gratification within my Spanish/French classroom and feel more motivated to learn the language. Two places where they get that instant gratification are via social media and via game-based learning. So I integrated those things into my classroom also to motivate them. So we're going to start off looking at how I did it with visual learning, and then we will look at the instant gratification. So most of you would have heard of the term visual learning. And when we talk about visual learning, we're looking at basically letting our learners see information. But we need to look at how 21st century learners want to see information. The research has suggested that the brains of this generation, of these 21st century learners, are actually structurally different than those of earlier generations. And it's not because of genetics, but it is a result of their external environment. Remember these children are born with iPads in their hands or computers in their faces. They always have these visuals in front of them. So their brains have been wired to sophisticated, complex visual imagery. And as such, the part of the brain that's responsible for visual ability is a lot more developed. And that makes visual forms of learning more appealing to them. And all that means is that it's easier to capture their attention with visuals. Now we may think, well, I'm in a classroom, I have a whiteboard, I have posters, I have visuals, so why aren't my students motivated? The question that we need to ask ourselves is, are those visuals appealing to this generation? When we were growing up, we had textbooks and, when it had colors, like, hey, look, color, this is so cool. But that's not going to appeal to them anymore. So we need to think about their characteristics and think about their reality. What is the reality of the 21st century learner? And how can I use that reality to influence the type of visuals that I'm giving them to make them want to come to my classroom, to make them want to learn the language? One reality that we definitely know that this generation loves videos. They love, love, love videos. And the research has shown us that they prefer to learn via YouTube videos than any other form of learning. I'm sure many of us use YouTube videos in our classrooms. So you may think, I'm using the videos. So what is the problem? Why aren't they learning? We need to think about the type of videos that they're using. So I'm going to show you two videos, and I would like you to tell me which videos you think your learners would be more interested in. But before I show you the videos, something I need to point out to you from the research also is that not only do they prefer to learn via YouTube videos, but that it only takes them 8 seconds to decide whether or not the content within that video is worth their while. And that's something we need to leverage. We only have 8 seconds to capture their attention. So now I'm going to show you the video, and let me know which video you think your students would be more interested in watching. So you would, after I showed it to you, would type either 1 or 2 to let me know. And I'm only showing the first couple of seconds.
Hola. As we continue with the preterite, it would be important to go over some of your regular
As we continue with the preterite,
it will be starting a series on many videos.
This will be starting a series on
in this video, we'll learn how to change the verbs ir and ser.
In this video, we'll learn how to change the verbs.
Let's start with ir. If you remember, the verb ir means to go.
You remember the verb ir means
yo voy
to go.
Tu vas.
Okay, so that was it. So that was the first video, and now we're going to take a look at the second video.
¿A dónde fuiste? Fuiste, fuimos, fueron.
Right, so which video do you think your students would be more interested in? Right, so they were saying video 2, Elen, same thing, video 2. Now both videos are giving the same information, but everyone, right? The second video is definitely the video that our students are going to be more interested in. So when we are looking at sharing videos with our students, we need to ensure, as we said earlier, that it is something that they would be interested in and not just something that's giving them the information and it's a YouTube video and they like videos, so why aren't they watching? Now, more than just having them watch videos, what about having them create? Remember, this is a generation where they like Snapchat and Instagram, and there's this new thing, TikTok. This generation likes to create videos also. So, what about having them create videos? So, there's something I'm going to show you. It's called Chatter Pics, where students can create videos, and having them create a video means that they get to forget about the fact that they're actually learning Spanish and do something, or French, and do something that they like to do. This is my daughter.
Hello, my name is Julian. I'm the fifth. Hello, my.
So she's 3, so she can't yet say chief properly. However, do you think that's something that your students can do? Can your students add some audio to a picture? Would they find it to be something that's fun, where they get to create? Or what about them creating an actual video? This one is just a picture where they put audio to it, but we can allow them to create videos, and it's something that they like to do. And because it's something that they like to do, what is going to happen is that the students are within their reality doing the things that they enjoy, and it kind of becomes secondary when they think about, oh, I'm learning Spanish, oh, I'm learning French. They are learning the language, but they don't even realize so much that they're learning the language because they're getting to do something that's engaging and fun for them. So I'm going to continue with the presentation. Back in the little corner. Great. So what other visuals can we use? What other visuals does this generation like? Have you ever received a message like this? Maybe those of you who have children who are maybe teenagers, they may have sent you a message, or you may have gotten a message by Edmodo or email. If you have ever received a message like this, did you understand the message? I'm going to assume yes. I'm seeing Giselle saying yes. I'm not sure if that's you got the message or you understood the message, but either way, they both are important. That not only do we need to understand the messages, right? Mirella saying absolutely. Great. Yeah, so this is the way that this generation speaks. They communicate a lot more using visuals than previous generations did. So we are teaching them a language, but we also need to learn their language. And part of their language is that they're speaking in images. So are we willing to adjust? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. Because if we can't understand our students, or if we are not willing to adjust to the way that they need to speak, they are not going to want to engage with us. I understand that we are in an educational context and we want our students to speak academically, to write academically, and we are going to get there. We're definitely going to get them there. But what about starting off on their level? Right. Mirella said she gets these messages from her 11-year-old. And are you comfortable responding to your 11-year-old using emojis also? Are we willing to speak to them using their language? Yes, we are in academics. Yes, we want them to speak using academic language. But the reality is that we are going to become a lot more like them than they would ever become like us. And some of us might say, no, I don't want to become like them. But think about it. When was the last time you used a rotary phone? Or when was the last time you saw a rotary phone? Or when was the last time you tried to load film into a camera? Those are things that have become obsolete. So as the generations move forward, we move forward with them. So within the classroom, we need to be willing to move forward with them also. And that may mean doing things like speaking their language and using visuals, using emojis, because that is how they speak. So ask yourself, do you understand your students? So I have 8 phrases here that students may use to speak. How many of them can you translate? How many of them do you understand? So I want you to try quickly. So you're going to type, you could just type number 1 or 2 or 3, whichever one you understand, and write for me what you think it means. I'm going to admit that when I first did this, I had to look up quite a few. I agree. That's exactly what I'm saying, Mirella. We don't have a choice. We meet them where they are and then get them to where they want to be and where we need them to be, sorry. Right? So we have time to go. Good luck. Hi, Solange. Running late, right? Is it time to go? I don't think time to go. It's really quiet. Number one, man is in a hurry. Right. Good luck for sure. Number two. Number six, right. Party time. Good job, Sandra. The five, see you soon. Good luck, party time. Right. Right. So I see some of you are quite capable of understanding the language, and that's great. So since we can understand the language, and let me give you what they mean so you can check and ensure. Dave is saying that you people are fast. Yes, they're quick typers, Dave. Well, they're the answers there. Call first. Well, let's call me. Good. So since we are capable of understanding their language, are we capable of using it in the classroom? Are we willing to use it in the classroom? It's something that we really need to think about. If we want to reach our learners, we need to be willing to speak the way they speak, and they speak with visuals. I mean, they say history repeats itself, and maybe that's what's happening here with this use of visuals. Maybe. And see some people saying they were far off. Okay, so based on your responses, I feel like you all are very willing to use visuals in your classroom. And as such, I'm going to do a quick exercise of visuals that you can use in your classroom. And I want you to tell me when you're done if you think that your students would be willing to do something like this. So we're going to do a poll. Um, so it's like a multiple choice, a very easy one. You're seeing a visual representation of an idiom, and I would like you to pick which one you think is the idiomatic expression that is trying to be represented. Please. Are you seeing it? Aye, that was quick. Okay, right. So I have 100% of participants. Nope, nope, nope. You're still doing it. Okay, I'll give you some time. I'm seeing Dr. Yamanali saying that we need to be culturally relevant, read the message that we are sending to our students, and I completely agree with that. So we need to be aware of what our students in our context are using. And as we go on, I'll show some things that we know that our students are definitely using. Let me just get back to that poll. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll now because we have another one that we need to do, and I don't want us to run out of time. Right. So it is querer es poder. That is what it is. Now think about this activity. We often want to teach our students idiomatic expressions, maybe on the higher levels or even on the lower levels. We don't want to just keep them on the vocab one word, one word. We want them to be natural and more authentic in the language. Do you think we can teach them at doing something like this as opposed to having them write down the vocab? Using an activity like this is helpful because it helps with avoiding code switching. So it's something that instead of the students having to go from English to Spanish, and we know that we try to avoid that, we can just give them the image. So they go from the image to the Spanish instead of the English to Spanish. And that's something that we're trying to do. What about visual polls? We can use something like this for a visual poll. We can use our emojis and have our students say how they feel, and they could circle happy, sad, whatever it is, but it would be with the emoji. And with that, all we are doing is we're getting the same information that we want to get. We're getting across the same thing that we want to get across, but we are doing it with visuals. We are doing it with their reality. So they don't necessarily realize that we are using things. I don't want to say tricking them because that sounds bad. But the students don't necessarily realize that we are coming down to their level for the purpose of doing what we want to do, which is get across our language. And then they're like, oh, I want to come to Spanish class. Spanish class is fun. Why is Spanish or French class fun? Because in that class, they are able to get in touch with their reality. It doesn't take them away from what they are accustomed to. So something we really need to consider. I'm just going to go through some other quick ways that we can use visuals. We can use emoji prompts. So keeping with their reality, this birdseed.com is actually a website where you can go and it will give you prompts. And the students can then use these emoji prompts to write, or they can use it to speak. So I used it in my classroom with my Form 5s for writing, and it was a way for them to start writing. So I gave them the website, and they were able to go and generate their own emojis. And I said, generate 5 emojis and write a paragraph based on those 5 emojis. And that's what they did. You could have them generate 3, you could have them generate 2, you can make them write a sentence instead of a paragraph, you can make them speak on it. It's really up to you. And if your students don't have the technology, then you can go ahead and generate the emojis yourself and share it with them and tell them, write on it. They see the emojis, they're excited, they're willing to do it. So when I did this activity with my students, I didn't have much time. So I said, okay, go home and do it. And we had class next day, and we will go through it the next day. And we have a WhatsApp group. This is my upper school students. And these children were sending me their work in the night, like 9 o'clock in the night. I now put my daughter to sleep. Miss, can you check for my paragraph? Miss, I finished. I mean, I was happy, but we were going to go through it tomorrow, so it wasn't necessary. But they were so excited because they were seeing something that was relevant to them, that they were excited to go home and do it and write a paragraph based on these pictures. And the reality is that this is no different than me giving them a bunch of cues and say, write a paragraph about so and so doing so and so. But rather, I just gave them the images and I allowed them to be creative with it, and they really enjoyed doing it. So think about whether or not you're willing to do something like this in your classroom, and not just if you're willing to do it, but if your students would enjoy it, if it can work for them in your classroom. Right. So that's visuals. We're going to move on to social media, and I know that for some people it's a touchy topic and people are uncomfortable in terms of using social media. But again, we need to think about the learners in our classroom. The imagery that we get in social media is iconic, and we can't avoid using it. Everybody knows the Facebook icon, everybody knows the WhatsApp icon. And if your students are given the choice between using Snapchat or using a textbook, which one do you think they would use? Some of us may be uncomfortable using actual social media, and obviously there are privacy things that we need to consider, but we can think about using fake social media to increase engagement. Because social media platforms, they increase communication skills, and that's what we are doing with languages. And they also provide a backdoor for shy learners, students who may be struggling to speak in front of others. They may be more comfortable speaking on social media. Now, there are websites like Edmodo, which I know some people use, where students are able to speak. So you can use that, and that's an educational platform. Or you can try using fake social media to increase engagement. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of how we can do so. Right. So social media is an iconic visual, as I said before. WhatsApp is a social messaging app, and as Dr. Yamanali, sorry, was speaking about being culturally irrelevant. WhatsApp is culturally relevant. Our students all know WhatsApp. We would do dialogues in our classroom. Often we would do dialogues and we would type it up, or we go in the book and the students would read the dialogues. But the reality is, how authentic is that? And how much is it a part of the 21st century learner's reality? But what about WhatsApp? How authentic is that? And how much is that a part of their reality? Are you willing to do something like this? So this image that you are seeing now with Javi having a conversation, this is not a real conversation. I created this using the fake chat app, and that's in the resources for you, and it can be used. So you give a context for the students. Javi is having a conversation with Carla about his day or about his lunchtime, and you can ask questions based on this. Your students are going to be more willing to read this than they're going to be willing to read a printout of a dialogue that is not authentic, that is inauthentic, and that is not a part of their reality also. We need to consider that. What is their reality? Who are they? And more than just providing this for them, what about having them create it? Remember, this generation really, really likes to create. We can give them the link the same way and have them create a dialogue. Because we often do that. We say, go home and create a dialogue, and they have to write it out. Why not allow them to do it here? Why not allow them to do it using iconic imagery, things that they know, using their reality? And there may be students who may not have a laptop, so they may not be able to go home and do it. Oh, sorry, Leanne distracted me. Sorry. So they may not be able to go home and do it, but then they have WhatsApp on their phone. So pair up Tom and Frank and tell Tom and Frank, have a conversation in Spanish about the same thing, and let them send you a screenshot of the conversation. So we need to find ways. That's what we need to do. We need to find ways to get our students to want to do this. There are other ways that we can use fake social media. So in addition to using WhatsApp, there's Facebook. So this is another. Can you tell which one is fake? So do you think the one on the left or the one on the right is fake? Just type quickly and let me know which one you think is fake. I know there's a bit of a delay. So is the one that I wrote fake or the one that Mr. Dwayne Reed wrote fake? So we think that the one on the right is fake. That's Dwayne Reed. Give me a couple of seconds to look at it and determine which one you think is the fake one. The one on the right. I'm seeing people saying the one on the right is which is Dwayne Reed, the fake one. Right, so this is also saying the one on the right. Dwayne, Giselle thinks Dwayne is fake. Okay. Mr. Dwayne Reed. Okay, so most people seem to think that Dwayne Reed is the fake one, but actually my own is the fake one, and Dwayne Reed's own was real. And I would encourage you to follow him on social media. He's a teacher who gives good ideas and he's very encouraging. So he was, yes, Sandra knows Jadal is fake because she has me on Facebook and that's not my profile picture. Right. But the reason that I show this is not just to show that we can use the fake social media within our classrooms, but also the emojis that Sandra pointed out. While we may find them to be annoying, it breaks up the text and makes it easier for our students to read. So if a student were to look at these two, which they both have the same information, and the student had to choose which one they wanted to look at, which one they wanted to read, which one do you think they would read? Would they read Dwayne Reed or would they read my own? Especially, and think about what we've been talking about how they speak and what language they speak and what are the visuals that they use. Which one do you think they would be more inclined to use, to read? And if we really reflect on it, Dwayne Reed would definitely be the one that they would be willing to read. And as Sandra is saying, that's my next point, the emojis can help with reading. So with meaning, sorry. So it would help with meaning and it can help us with differentiation also. So we can have the same reading, but we can break it up. we can change it according to who we're speaking to. So there's students, certain students who may need a reading passage with emojis to help them understand, where other students may not need emojis within it for understanding. And you can still put emojis to break up the text, but the emojis may not be for understanding. So it's something to consider. We can use the social media along with the visuals to help our students to understand and to help them to be more engaged, to be more willing to learn. So as Shamika is saying, yes, it causes the user to be curious as to the content. And not only that, but it also gives them an idea of what the content is about. Because when you look at Dwayne Reed, you know it's something to do with a mouse that was funny, for sure. You know that's the story that you're going to be looking at. So it's something that we need to consider using, even when we are doing culture within our classrooms. Before we start a culture video, before we share the cultural artifact, what about sharing something like this? A conversation. This is again a fake messaging app. Does anybody know which song or which singer we have here with this first one? It's one of my favorite songs, by the way, guys. I really like it. Yes, Como la Flor, yep, Selena. And the second one is not as popular. Yes, Leanne, they are sharp. The second one is not as popular, but anybody knows what it is? I would sing it for you, but my voice is really terrible. Okay, the second one is from Carcaccia, which is also Selena. You can feel free to look it up to familiarize yourself with her awesomeness. But we can use things like this also. It, as Sandra was saying, emojis can help with understanding. So this could have been como la flor, and then the picture of the flower, so that the students will know, hey, this floor is flower. And again, the code switching. So we can think about using things like this within our classrooms also, right? And that would be the social media. And again, they get the instant gratification. Now, what about game-based learning? Remember, as I said, we were focusing on the characteristics of these 21st century learners. They are accustomed to instant gratification. And because they're accustomed to that, we need to try to provide it for them. With social media, they get it through the likes and whatnot. So we use that iconic imagery for them, but also we use the game-based learning. So what game-based learning does is that it allows for them to get that instant that they're used to, because their life is instant food. They don't even have to watch advertisements when they're watching shows anymore, because their shows are instant. So everything for them is instant. So we need to give them that too. Using games gives them that, and we use it in our classrooms. And I know many of us would definitely be using games in our classroom. But why? Why do they need this instant gratification? The thing with learning a language is that it takes time. And we know that this generation, they're not very patient. So you give them a test, and you're walking down the corridor with the test in hand. Miss, how are you doing the test? So you just did the test, though. I don't know. I haven't marked it as yet. They're accustomed to getting feedback instantly. And with learning a language, that's the opposite. You don't feel like you don't learn a language instantly. It takes time. And for them, that can be a bit challenging. But if you give them games, when they win a game or when they win a level, it allows for mastery. And the students feel like they are learning, and they are learning, but they see the learning, they see that instant feedback, and it makes them more willing to go through the process of learning the language. So it's something that's called chunking. So you give them a little bit, you give them a little bit, you give them a little bit, so that they can work towards that fluency. Right. So they were saying it motivates them to keep at it, even if it's a challenge. Yes, because think about when you're playing a game, when you lose the level, do you give up and say, nah, I'm not doing this again? I don't. They keep going back. You keep going back because you want to win, and that's what we want to give our students. So we want to use games in our classroom, because it really is the key to these students. I know many of you are using games, so let's look at how. How can we use games? We've looked at a lot of things that are techy and online, and it doesn't always have to be techy and online. You can do simple things like shooty hoop. This is something I love to play because it's really easy. It's like very low prep, and the students love it because I was teaching boys, so that would they liked playing football. They like playing football, basketball, any kind of sports. So shooty hoop is a game that I would have played, and it allowed for differentiation. It allowed for movement within the classroom. So what I would have done with my students. Yes, that's true. Some teachers don't understand the concept of a game, that's Hiyamanali. And the thing with that is that the what students like with games, as we spoke about the instant gratification, the points, the badges, the leaderboards, those are the things that they really look forward to. So when you're playing a game and they win the game, there must be some kind of point system, even if it's something that you made up on your own. There must be something for them to say, hey, look, I got this, yay, and they are moving on. So we can do games in this way. So the way I would have used this within my classroom would be for them to level up. So after they play one game, they have leveled up, they have mastered something, and they move on to the next one, and then next one, and next one. Now this doesn't have to happen within one class, and actually drawing it out over a period of classes makes them even more willing to come to your class. So let's say you play the first one, shoot the hoop, and the students have achieved something and they reach this mastery level and they're like, yay. The next class, before they can do the second level, which may be solving the QR code, we have to do some kind of teaching. We have to make sure that they get the information through. So we say, okay, guys, we need to get to level two. But before we get to level two, we need to cover this topic and I need to be sure that you'll understand it and whatnot. The students now have something to look forward to. They're more willing to be in your class and learn whatever it is you're trying to teach them because they know that at the end of it, at some point, they get to move on to level two. And then after level two, you do the same thing. You play the game, and then you say, all right, before we can get to level three, what we need to do is learn this next topic. So let's go to this topic. And it may take you a week to teach the topic, but that's okay because the students have something to look forward to. And then when they play that game, as we said, they feel like they've mastered something. They feel like, hey, look, I am working towards this fluency. So it's something that we definitely should try. And if you look at the levels that I have here, they are different types of games because we don't want it to get boring for them. So first we have shoot the hoop where they get to move around. Then we have solving the QR code, which we will see if we can do quickly. Quizzilize is something I'm going to touch on. And then you can figure out whichever the package is. For us, when we did this, we did an international conference, and this package was them solving a puzzle. So it's fun. So let's take a look at the QR code. Instead of having you scan it, so your students can scan it, they get to use technology, they love that. But I wrote what comes up with the scan. So it says using 2 to 5 visuals represent the idiom, it's raining cats and dogs. And you can send to me so I can see who's the best. Now, those of you who want to use your chat here, the chat box doesn't actually have an emoji keyboard, but if you're using Chrome, you can hold down Windows and P, Windows and the period, and you'll get emojis, and you can send it there if you wish, if you don't want to go through the drama of finding your phone and all of that. So how would you represent this idiom? And do you think your students would be interested in representing an idiom like this? For those of you, well, there's nobody teaching Spanish, so maybe you could have these. There's nobody teaching English, so you could have the Spanish or French versions, Rivera Cantaros. This is what the code looked like for those of you who wanted to scan it. And you can send it here to me, or you can hold down Windows and the full stop, Windows and the period, and Right. So I'm seeing Shamika got training cats and dogs, right? So that's if you were teaching English. And if you're doing it in Spanish, you'd have llueve a cántaros. And instead of the cats and dogs, you would have a jug. But can you imagine giving your students something like this to do? So you give them, if you're teaching English, you give them this to do. And the way that they are translating it is by giving you the images. So I have my WhatsApp open and I'm seeing Dave sent it to me, right? And Helen, Ellen, sorry, reading cats and dogs. And you put the extra rain so that they make sure you make sure that they know. Nice. Oh, and Ellen also teaches. Amy responding. Oh, okay. Ellen also teaches English. Good. So this could work for you in your English class, Ellen. Yeah. So Sandra's saying that she thinks this is something they would enjoy a lot. And I think so also. And it helps us to get them to a higher level of language because it's not just them learning the one word thing, but they're learning a phrase and they're more willing and they're happier to learn the phrase. Okay, so that's one of the things that you can do if you are doing a level up situation like this. If you look at the third level up here, it discusses Quizzilize, getting the most points. Now, we're not actually going to get into Quizzilize right now because I want you to have some time to ask questions and we're coming down to the end of the session. But I am going to show you what it looks like. So Quizzilize is a gaming software. It's a website that you can use where your students basically do a quiz. And there are many of them like Kahoots. I'm not sure if you guys would have heard of Kahoots or Quizzes, which are also gaming software that we use with our students to get them to play games online and they have lots of fun. But what I like, so how it works is that you come up with your quiz with Quizzilize. The good thing about it is that quizzes are already there. So you don't have to come up with a quiz. You could just pick a quiz that you like and maybe edit it. You send them to your website and you give them a code and they're able to do the quiz. But at the end of the quiz, the beautiful, beautiful thing is that you are able to set up differentiated activities based on how they perform. So this is a screenshot of what it looks like when you are setting it up. So you are able to see which questions your students struggled with the most, so you know what to reteach. But at the end of the quiz, when the students are finished, you get to choose where you send them. So I set up a quiz about adjectives of character in French, and it was actually for you guys to do. Those of you who scored less than 50%, you would have been sent to a YouTube video that speaks about adjectives of character. Because you don't know it, you need to learn it. Those of you who got between 50 to 80%, you would have been sent to take a look at the top 15 adjectives. So it's not that you don't know it, you're in between, so you need to get a little more help, and I would give you that help with that video. And those of you who got over 80%, you would have been sent on to the next topic, conjugaise à l'école. So Quizzilize allows for differentiation and it allows the student to learn at their own pace. And that is something that is very important. These students now, because they have technology at their fingertips, that's what they can do. If they want to learn something, they don't need to wait to come in our classroom to learn it. They could sit down in front of a computer and learn it. So we need to try to give them opportunities to learn at their own pace. And by differentiating the quiz, you can do so. Okay, Leanne answered Shamika's question. Thank you, Leanne. So again, this resource is there. I will share it with you at the end of the session, and I would encourage you please to take a look at it because it really is wonderful. It's a wonderful tool for you to use. And again, just to recap what we just did, I do encourage you to give them the instant gratification by using games in your classroom. So we're going to end up with one last activity because we are at the end. I've been with you for 53 minutes and I do thank you so much for giving me your attention and for being so interactive. It was wonderful. We are recapping what was done. This is an image that should represent the 21st century learner and these three things that we looked at in our session to motivate our learners. So I would like you to type 1, 2, 3 based on the picture that you are seeing. You would see that it's color coded, so it should be easy. And the person who types it first wins and gets free entry into any 21st Century Educators webinar for 2020. So go. Ooh, wow, that's quick. Okay, so Leanne is moderating this chat because I cannot keep up. And she's saying that Solange is the one who got it first. Solange did all three. So yes, number one is games. Let me show you. Number two is that we use visuals. And the third one is social media. So congratulations, Solange. Well done. And thank you everybody else for playing. You guys are quick typers. You are really quick typers. So Solange, Leanne will coordinate with you in terms of getting the voucher for attending any of the webinars for free. And this actually brings us to the end of our session. And we see the recap here. I would really encourage you to try these things in your classroom, or for those of you who are helping teachers, I would encourage you to share some of the tools with them. I'm sharing the resource with them and it's free for you. I'm sharing the resource with you, sorry. And you are free to share it with anybody that you need to share with to assist them in the classroom, because that's why we're here to help. So to end off, we have about 4 more minutes. Are there any questions that you have that I can answer for you? While we're doing that, I'm just going to share the file of the resource. Okay, so I have shared the resource for you, so you can access it at any point, download it, and share it with whomever you need to share with. And also, when you finish the session, if you can just click on this link that Leanne would have shared for you and give feedback on the session, it would be greatly appreciated. And for those of you who are saying thank you, you're very welcome, Dave and Dr. Yamanali. I really hope that the session was useful to you and that you can share the information with the persons that you may be mentoring, and obviously, most importantly, with your students. Thank you, Giselle. I'm glad you enjoyed it. There will be webinars throughout the year. At the end of the resource that I shared with you, you will have an email address that you can contact either of us with, and also on Facebook, follow 21st Century Educators so that you can keep up with what is happening with the webinars. So that's the answer, Shamika. So there will be other webinars for sure. You're most welcome, Shamika. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Mirella. Okay. Right. Wonderful. I'm so glad that it was useful to everyone. Thank you, Sonja. Yeah, make me blush. Right. Okay, so if you're ready and chat the resources that I just shared, that file that I shared, it's a Word document. If you could just download it. Dave wants to know how long it would take me to prepare the game. Well, the thing is that if you're doing it over a period of sessions, you just have to prepare one game at a time. So, oh, you're welcome, Fadon. It's true. We haven't heard from you. I'm sorry that your textbook isn't working. We're going to send that feedback to the webinar hosters so that can be fixed. Dave, it wouldn't take very long. The hoop doesn't take very long because it's based on what you're doing. So it would be a normal part of your lesson prep. It isn't anything extra. Quizzilize, the resource is already there for you. The quiz is already there. So it's just a matter of how long it may take you to tailor it maybe we need to change one or two questions. So the things that I have shared with you are really low prep, easy things to do. You know, that's what we like as teachers. Right. Okay, guys. So that's it for us. Unless you have any more questions or comments. Yes, you can create your own quiz on Quizzilize, babe, and you can share it for everyone. I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah. So you can either use quizzes that are there, or you can share, or you can create your own and share it for other teachers to benefit. So be sure to download that file that I shared with you before you leave. And also, if you would like to review this webinar, it's going to be available to you for the next 72 hours. So if you want to review what was done, you can feel free to look at it for the next 72 hours. And the feedback, Sandra, Leanne shared the link in the chat. So if you can just click on it now, you scroll back to where Leanne shared the link. It's a Google form. You can give the feedback there. So we can just have an idea of what worked, what didn't work, and tailor it for our next webinar. You're welcome, Julie. I didn't know Julie was here. Okay, thank you, Giselle. Really, thank you so much for your time. Okay, everyone. So we're gonna sign off now. So we hope that we can see you again soon. Join us for our next webinar. And thank you again. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, ciao. Bye, everyone. Au revoir.